First of all, my sincere apologies that I'm not there physically. Working to certain urgent commitment that way. I hope everybody can also I okay, very good, very good. So, good morning to everybody. Thank you for India's market forum to make this presentation. As most of you know, we are a public service institute of the Ministry of Power, and we are operational for our PCA, and our main mandate is to advise and assist the ministry in coordination of appropriate programs and policies for smart grid development in the country. We work with state governments, the commission, and utilities, and also now in the assist them in capacity building and service management. One of the initiatives is it okay now? Okay. So one of the first initiatives taken by market forum was to formulate a market roadmap for India, which was approved by the Ministry of Power in 2013, and a national market system, which will be about to launch this soon. And this mission
I'm sorry, I think there's some disruption. Yeah. We'll just try once more. If it works, it'll be great. And I'll request him to continue a little later. Yeah. Yeah, sorry about this. Sorry about that discussion for your I hope the connection will be stable. So, I said one of the things we did was to have a market roadmap and some vision and roadmap for India, which is a government of India policy, and this is going to be a reality when we launch a national mission. We will hear about it government announcement very soon. That's an approach at every level and we will announcement from the government of India. So we also recently that must be engaged with urban development in working smart city related initiatives. We've been advocating that particularly the automation and the IT aspect of a smart grid can be leveraged as marginal cost for automating and building the other infrastructure scale in a city, or rather extending the smart grid assets to build smart city at marginal cost, which are found a lot of acceptance in investment, various stakeholders, and also being engaged with the Ministry of Urban Development on developing and framework for smart cities. Smart cities is a relatively new concept. 10 years ago, when we were talking about smart grid, it was never the first month used today. But over the years, there is much clarity what is smart grid, what needs to be done. There is even a smart grid maturity model about which I come by later. So smart city is very important and we learn to look at it. But over the millennia, these are devoted into huge conglomerate which require specialized tools for administering them efficiently and the operate the development with the managers and using information and IT and other tools for efficiently administering the tools. You will find our definition for smart cities from the developing country perspective, where there is no 24/7 electricity, where there is no 24/7 water supply, there is no proper transportation system. For us, a developing country where basic infrastructure needs to be put in place, our primary focus of building smart city should be building detailed infrastructure with automation and IT and use ITT for other domains. So we can build into this infrastructure at marginal cost now than the conventional infrastructure which we will be building over the past several decades. One estimate says that by 2035, that's 20 years from now, India will have about 2 billion square meters of commercial space. We have only 100 million square meters now, which means 1.4 billion square meters of commercial space to be built, which we can definitely build at very marginal cost and intelligent infrastructure, and the life cycle cost which will be much less. And we don't have a problem of automation systems for most pieces of infrastructure in India, where we have legacy applications proprietary for etc. We can leapfrog, we can go with matured applications which are interoperable. So the need for a smart city maturity model has been built from this perspective, and different cities, even in India, although itself, we have to give more priority for the infrastructure. An industrial city where power, water, etc. becomes the most important thing may not be as important in a tourist city or in a service city or a factory city. Each city will have different depending on what are their objectives and what are their vital offerings. They may need to give more priority to one item or few items with respect to others. So we are preparing a smart city maturity model applicable in the Indian context, and this was what we have done in the last couple of months is available on our portal India.org and the tab called Smart City Project. So many other international agencies have attempted to developing guide certification standards for smart cities in the last 2 years. One preliminary approach was by Smart City Council, which first released their smart city readiness guide in 2013, and ISP is a public member of Smart City Council, and we have also done to come out with the first guide, and which was updated again in 2014, which talks about some city responsibilities and some technology enabling and the interplay of that, and what would be the benefits of that, which are listed there. And this particularly is the smart city framework where technology will be enabled, how it's going to improve the city's responsibility or service delivery in each of the area has been captured in a very big form in the 2013 issue of the guide that they updated in 2014. ISO 37120, which you are all aware, they have taken or outlined 17 main themes and hundreds of themes. This again, they have covered a large spectrum of activity, but from a developing country perspective, when we look at it from an India lens, we find many people are missing here. So this 6 slides talk about what are the 17 themes and the hundreds of themes, which you can study later. So I would compliment the Ministry of Urban Development. They have come up with a very good answer. No, the first version was issued in September, had a stakeholder consultation, and they have issued a great version in 2014. So this talks about 4 different areas: physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, institutional infrastructure, and economic infrastructure. All the activities which need to be created in a city to make it smarter, classified into the 4 areas which will contribute to the quality of life. And this has some area of overlap with the ISO we supplement 2.0 and other initiatives. And what ISDF has done that, we again look at it from our perspective of how if we take smart grid as an annual infrastructure, how smart grid can be extended to the water tank and make intelligent other infrastructure like water supply, gas supply, transport, security, domain, etc. And smart grid infrastructure leverage in other infrastructure of a smart city and are evolving into a smart economy. So this, from that perspective, we look at each of these some domain, each of these base broad themes, physical infrastructure, what are the main domains of the domain, and try to create an interdependency matrix between all this. And that few lecture sheets are again available for reference on our website and see. Some of which are done. Our original target was to release this interdependency matrix by end of December. There will be some amount of confusion created by our organizations who are working in the same and the Ministry of Urban Development. So the work has been halted for a while. So we again see so much we have right. As far as the maturity levels are concerned, we exactly try to follow the smart grid maturity model, where they say as this situation of a utility is taken as level 0, and in the case of smart city maturity model that we are now developing, we have 2-3 rounds of brainstorming, and everybody agrees that what is best available in the world as of today. We will take that as level 4 for maturity, and if we ask any Indian city today, most of them look at even at the level 1, which is 50% of what is in the world. So we will set a target. The current situation of the city we assess it, and then level 1 we assess it. Suppose for electricity, the best electricity that is coming in the world, say for example, exercise and VRO, we will take that as level 4. So for water supply, the best water supply in the world, if it is existing say in Barcelona, we take that as level 4. We will try to reach 50% of that in the next 5 years of level 1 and gradually improve over a period of time. Each city can set their own goal in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, we should reach level 4 at least. Which is best in the world, which is today, we should reach there in next 5 to 10, 15 years time frame. And level 5 will again define as perspective innovation and improvement. So this is an approach which will help a city to what we decide, okay, this is what is existing in Barcelona in the water supply domain, and 50% of that characteristics we have to achieve in the city of Adria. What we need to do, what are the technologies that should be implemented, how much it is going to cost. We could do a possibility analysis for that, and in a systematic way, we could build different domains of a smart city. That was the intention of doing this, and we intend to complete in the first version, beta version, and we will let me clarify that ISDF will lead to the physical infrastructure only, not into the social and to the economic and institutional infrastructure where we don't have basic spikes. ISDF and our organizers will contribute to some of the smart city maturity model, and we will also define once we complete the interdependency matrix between various domains, we will see the work technology enabled and how it can, a city can access to higher levels in each of the domains by leveraging different technologies available. And one of the main points which I like to highlight is very difficult to find different cases of smart cities. However, most people in India we have a huge inefficiency in the electricity distribution sector. 20, 30, 40% loss of the electricity distribution, and there is a burning need for building smart grids to reduce the loss of the electricity domain. So the example of Delhi 10 years ago, we had more than 50% loss in the electricity distribution sector in India. In the Delhi city, which we have now brought down systematically over the last 10 years, below 15%, 12, 13, 14% is there. So this cost in India are very the network loss of their content. So that itself is if money invested to make this distribution utility, electricity infrastructure intelligent, if the payback period from 12 months to 30 months. So that infrastructure which we built to make the smart cities can be effectively applied at the beginning, extended to other infrastructure domains. So this is a part which can give in the case for main city, take and build up an under infrastructure and build around it. And electricity utilities are very close interaction with the customer or the citizens of the city. They think the meter reading, they produce a bill, send the bill, they collect the money every month, and they can get many other infrastructure domains work in the living. So, and I program which many of you know about it, RFPRP. 1,401 towns in India or country, and RFPRP is going to have a basic IT and automation, including a digital map. This can be efficiently, very effectively and efficiently leveraged to other infrastructure domains and at very marginal cost. So, this is proposed with the National Smart Grid Mission. When we announced, we have done some cost estimates also. 30 cities out of the 100 cities, which are very good. 30 cities will be taken out of that under the National Smart Grid Mission for building smarter grids here, and that smart grid infrastructure can be leveraged for building smart cities. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to take next couple of minutes. Thank you.
Now that we have heard from my good friend and a really a stalwart in his own right, Reggie Pillai, it's our turn to get on with the actual live on the premises presentations. We have got 4 eminent speakers here. First of all, let me ask from the organizers, how much time do we have? Previously, we used to have 1 full hour. Do we have an hour? We have less than an hour, or what? We have an hour? Good. So let's make the best use of it. I would suggest that each of the 4 speakers spend about 10 to 12 minutes making their presentations, and the last 10 to 12 minutes will be question and answer. I mean, I just don't like the idea at all of cutting short the questions. I mean, that's what we are all here for, asking questions and put them into trouble. And if some of them would say, I don't know, I'll get back to you tomorrow, that's even better. I mean, they don't know everything. We are not all supposed to know everything of everything. So let's aim for that and let's see where the journey takes us. The other thing that I would like to tell you before we get started, that I'm not going to spend 5 minutes in telling how eminent these speakers are. We all know. You can read from their bios in the booklet that has been presented by m2m paper. I'll give a very short one-liner as to who they are. If you want to tell them who you are, ask them during the coffee break, okay? First of all, the topics of this panel discussion. There are 4 bullet items. Why smart cities? I think smart everything is good. That's why smart cities. It's about time that people like us, the smart citizens, we started living in smart cities, right? Now our cities are already smart. I told you yesterday, we have to make it smarter. The second bullet is the smart city model. Actually, the second and the third bullets are very intertwined. Smart city model and defining the smart city ecosystem. You cannot do one without the other. That will be the second major thrust area. And the last is roles and responsibilities of the stakeholders. We heard from Professor Shah where he just speculated, and I'm sure that he was, from his experience, he said it right, that sometimes the stakeholders are not even consulted while policy decisions are made. We all need to make sure that stakeholders have the opportunity to speak out. If they are not a part of the solution, sometimes they have to come up and say what the requirements are. That's a huge big step forward. Like here I see that there are very few ladies. That's not a representative of a smart ecosystem here. Men, we are okay. Ladies are better, they're smarter. So we start with that. And first speaker is Mr. Anil Pandey. He is Director of New Businesses of Duraline. He is the Chairman PCE Committee, whatever PCE might mean, PCE Committee of FTTH. I believe that's fiber to the home, right? FTTH Council Asia Pacific. He's going to enlighten us before we go to the next speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, distinguished guests. So, essentially, as part of the introduction, I think what is relevant from the topic and what the reason why I'm here is I'm very, very deeply associated with, there's a council called the Fiber to the Home Council, Asia Pacific. This is a global organization which has got four or five chapters, sisters, US, Europe, Asia Pacific, Africa. So I'm on the board of the Asia Pacific Council for the last several years. And the mission of the council is to go around the countries in this region and promote the adoption of fiber. So which is why this topic is so very close to what we've been doing, passionate about fiber, about connectivity, about internet, and m2m and IoT and smart cities is all riding on that. I actually had a small few slides I thought I'll use to make my point. If somebody can put it up.
Somebody would help.
Is that the one? This is the one? No, this is Mr. Thumur. This is what I mean. No. No. This way. This way. No, it's not here.
That's not it.
It's not here. Okay, so not delving deep into what smart cities is and what is it supposed to do. I think yesterday and today everybody knows about the essential concept of what smart cities is. So there is a definition which was stated by the focus group on smart cities, smart sustainable cities is here, which just says that which uses information and communication technology and other means to improve the life or efficiency of life. So essentially what we're talking about in all this concept is to have this means which eventually at the end of the day improves the life of people, makes them happier, makes them do things better. That's the end of it all. And to do that, obviously it has to be sustainable. It has to be something that carries on. It has to encompass everybody, every single person. You can't have, I mean, essentially internet is creating, bridging the gap between haves and have-nots, and information and not information, and education and books. It's all supposed to be ubiquitous for everybody. So it has to be very encompassing. It has to touch everybody's lives. That's what smart city is all about. Okay, so I put down a few essentials, and I think I'll deliberate a bit on these points. Essentials of a smart city is that it has to be very ubiquitous. It has to be seamless. You cannot have pockets of smartness. You know, you can't have a place where you've got lights which are switching on and off depending on the sunlight, and the other place where it is not happening. You can't have a patchy system at all. So this concept of having 100 smart cities is a good idea from a government perspective to try and trigger off something which is in the direction of what we want to do, but it has to be a lot more than just 100 cities. It doesn't work like that. You can't have 100 cities where somebody's got, what, Delhi is a city. So Delhi is one of those 100 cities, I imagine, or Bangalore. You can't have somebody sitting in Bangalore to have access to e-health and not somebody sitting in Mirzapur for that matter. It's probably needed the other way around. However, it's okay as an initiative to start something somewhere, but it has to be very ubiquitous, has to be seamless, has to flow everywhere. It has to be sustainable, it has to be green. Yeah, you can't be taking away or spoiling the environment while you are building fiber networks or copper networks. And there's a huge topic by itself separately as to between copper networks and fiber networks. What is green? What is it that uses up the resources of the world, of the earth more, copper or fiber, and which way should you go? What kind of power consumptions are there? So there's a huge study and a big topic in itself on how to make fiber networks green, and I won't go into that now. But yes, so that is something that the designers and developers are always keeping in mind to make sure that that what we're building now as an infrastructure on fiber is green, healthy. So the word that is being talked about now is infrastructure, not so much as infrastructure. And this is perhaps in my mind and in the FTTH Council's mind, the stakeholders everywhere, and we work with countries and governments across many countries. So we've worked with the Australian government, for example, and we've discussed in detail what this infrastructure is all about. Singapore, and this is the single most important thing on which the smart cities or anything else can actually sit. If this is not there, you have nothing. Now what it means is, the example of Delhi roads that Professor Shah talked about, you have big cars coming in, but you don't have roads. What's the point of doing that? So if you start working on e-health services or anything of that matter, if you don't have fiber going into our homes, we're still going somewhere. If you're not driving up to All India Institute, you drive in some center where you are trying to get connected. That's not the idea. That's not taking it all the way. It has to be, you need to have that connectivity, base, foundation, fiber to the home everywhere. And it'll be a mistake if you try and run this smart city concept on satellites or radio technologies, because it needs a lot of bandwidth. You're not just saying hello, you're not talking, you're sending data, you're sending a lot of data, very, very high bandwidth. So you have to put that foundation of fiber everywhere. Otherwise, this one chance that we have will fail. And if a thing like this fails, it costs money. And somebody who's burned their hands, fingers in not making a good business case, at the end of the day, you have to make money. Even government would like to put in money if there is some return coming in. So it'll fail. And once it fails, it's a very Herculean task to try and do it all over again. So a couple of suggestions here, which I think from a urban ministry, and this has to be in some manners driven by the government. The European Union has passed a law making internet or information a fundamental right, like freedom of speech. You have to have, the governments have to give internet. So if you don't give internet connectivity, if you are disconnecting a citizen, then you are breaking the law. You have to have so much of connectivity available. Everybody has to be connected. A lot of countries have mandated, with something that we need to look at doing in India, and the FTTH Council is engaged with many government bodies in Korea, in Malaysia, and a lot of other places. So if you build a house, if a builder is building a house, like he puts in water and electricity and sewage, he has to put in 2 ducts for fiber. He has to have that house fiber enabled from day one to get completion certificate. So what we are seeing in India, and I'm sure all of us are fairly familiar with what's happening. So the National Optic Fiber Network is being set up. Private sectors, the telcos of the world have put in a lot of fiber. There's fiber running almost everywhere, but it's not coming into homes as yet, which is a very sad thing. And I think India is sitting at a point where it's very confused. It doesn't know how to do that. Almost every country in this part of the world, and I'm not going very far, has reached a situation where fiber has gone into homes. In Singapore, IDA, which is the equivalent of TRAI in Singapore, has mandated and made it compulsory. Every house, every shop, every office has to have 2 ducts or microducts with fiber deployed, and they're funding it. They have a mechanism to do it. But there is a directive, a direction in which they are really working on making fiber available everywhere for a smart city kind of a concept to happen. So that's something we should look at very seriously, so that the private sector also, and it doesn't cost anything at all. It doesn't cost anything at all. It's just that the private sector perhaps is not seeing a return or a business model where money is available immediately to come in. And for that, in Malaysia, they've launched a scheme. The government has launched a scheme where buildings are rated, star 1, star 2, star 3 kind of ratings, depending on what kind of fiber they've deployed, so that they can get to sell their buildings at a better price, to say this is fiber ready or 100 Mbps ready building. That kind of thing has to start happening here. Okay, safety net. So when I talked about ubiquitous, which is where this safety thing came into my mind, is that if you don't have it seamless, you can't have pockets of safety where it's covered and other places where it's not covered. So you really have to have very seamless, self-healing. Electricity grid is another thing. So if you've got some smart cities and others are not smart, but the grid is everywhere. So you can't have, how do you handle a smart distribution of electricity if it's not entirely covered through the smart network, so on and so forth. This I think everybody knows. Have I run my time out? 4 minutes. Oh, 4 minutes. Okay. Okay. The other thing that we have to be prepared for, and which actually is happening, is so this, once you have a smart city or once you have fiber connectivity everywhere, there is billions of gigabits of information collected every day, every hour, and it's coming in. So then what? So how do you actually process that to make smartness, whether it is in electricity distribution, where what's happening, or in data distribution, or accidents, or road traffic congestion and all that. So it all depends on who and how is that big data being processed. And we should not go into that problem or situation that India is very well known to get into very often, is when you don't know what each department is doing, and who's got the data and who's got to use it, and there's no handshake happening. So there has to be, and this is not something that can be handled by or private sector companies. This is something which has very carefully thought about, so that information is available to the respective divisions or departments, which in turn can utilize the private sector, but actually to utilize that big data information, get that insight, and then transfer that into actions. It has to be holistic. I just talked about same kind of thing, and this is something more routine. People understand the fine items of what a smart city is, and how is it going to help you, and all of that. But I think my impression, or my focus of my communication is more in terms of, we have to make sure that this infrastructure for smart cities to thrive on, to build and to grow and to become a success has to be well thought about. I think I'll end here, not go into those details. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil. Our next speaker is Kushpal Dahiya. Now, Anilji has said why and what, the bullets. I think he touched on that. Is Kushpalji, you are going to be elaborating on the same theme, or the implementation part of it?
Implementation, as well as try to know that what is the reality right now. Thank you, sir, for giving me a chance, and good morning to everybody. I'm not having my slides with me because I had requested earlier that am I supposed to present. Then I got a feedback, no, it would be a discussion, so I'm not having the slides, but definitely would try to attract your attention towards, whenever we are talking about smart cities, it's a very nice word, and we are really feeling that yes, we are going to be smart, but what is the reality at ground level? Definitely we have to think upon that. And when we are talking about, first of all, we should go for cities Until now, let me ask you very frankly, how much of our cities are to be called as cities in India? How many cities? Because whenever we are talking about a city, we are having smart infrastructure already. We should have physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, and economic infrastructure. And whenever we are talking about it is smart word, it has been just put on it. Are we so fast? Can we change as a smart city? So my first question on the today's scenario stands over here, that first of all, definitely we should work towards taking our 100 cities on that direction where those would be called as cities. Till now, except NDMC, New Delhi Municipal Corporation, I don't think so that Delhi itself should be called a city in that perspective. So just providing all the facilities, just like a good speed of internet and all other technological things, I don't think these things would be taking in that direction. Now the second point, always we are talking about sustainability. Everything should be sustainable. It is again a very good word when we are hoping that yes, the things would be sustainable. But on what basis? What we do have and where in which direction we are working to achieve the sustainability? Do we have anything, any particular city till now, any particular town, city or area where there we are talking about and say that this particular mohalla, city or portion of city is sustainable in each and every aspect? Second point, third point I would like to make, that roles and responsibilities of the stakeholders also had been introduced. Yes. Now, I think so that first of all, there should be a systematic approach and it would be a long journey. It is good. Initiative is definitely supported. We are also, because whensoever the such kind of decisions have been taken, definitely, if not today, after 10 years, we would be definitely achieving that. But before that, first of all, we should have the database, smart database. Is there till now in our country, is there any particular city where the database has been generated up to the very household level, and is it on the single platform with the government? Because until unless we do not know what is the status of our city at present, how we can plan it to make it a smart city? So to know our current scenario in a better way, we are supposed to have a smart database. And on the basis of that database, we should plan that within how much period of time we can achieve this smartness and sustainability. So first of all, it is my opinion. I can be having a different perspective from other people also. And parallel to that, I would also like to convey my views from this platform, that we should also talk about smart villages. First of all, this migration we have to control up to a certain extent. The workload of population and migration today we are carrying on our cities, I think so it can never lead to the smartness of cities. We have to definitely, or the government has definitely have to think that what should we do to stop this migration from rural areas to the urban areas. It might be that definitely some good concepts we are following from the other world. Yes, they are having, but our geographical conditions and our social and cultural conditions are also equally important whenever we are talking about these things. So, cluster of villages should be developed as in smart villages, cluster of villages, and local resources should be analyzed, and the people should be provided some of the facilities over there, means resources available, what are the resources available over there, and what kind of resource generation, in mean to say that economic resources, or we can say the, it's about this job perspective also. So if we are enough capable to locate some of the patches right now in our country. So up to a certain extent, then this migration, if it is stopping up to a certain extent and the local resources would be consumed on the local platform, I think so something better would come out, and definitely we would be achieving. And we also hope the very best that today whatever we are talking about the smartness of cities, we should achieve very fast. I think so. This is my perspective. If you do have any query or you want to say, I would be thankful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushwalji. I mean, you brought some reality check about what and where to you go, and all kinds of difficult questions. I like difficult questions. Otherwise, our solutions that we seek may not be worthy of ultimate outcome. Let's hear from our remaining two speakers, and then we can soul search and go to the next phase. Thomas Vidonia. CMO is Chief Marketing Officer. What is CMO? Yes. CMO and Customer Development, ICT Technology Network Institute. It's a private institute, right?
Yes, it is.
I like it. I'll tell you what. I just respect the government. I respect the fact that about a lot of things we do look forward to the government. But we all need to recognize that government has limitations. Government is as good as we can make it. And if we can make the burden on it little less daunting, it's better. And that way, the responsibility comes down to the non-governmental sector of what our responsibilities are, what our roles need to be. And I believe a private organization like an ICT Technology Network Institute fills really that important slot. And Thomas, I just got to know you yesterday, my friend, and already I got a request. You want to be my friend on?
Yes, of course. We are friends, I think.
We are friends already. These days, things go like this. LinkedIn, Thomas wants to be your friend. And just click, and we are connected to each other's universe. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We should close this one, right? Are we fine? Namaste. Thank you very much for invitation, and I hope you will take all the tough questions. We have you here. You are much more knowledgeable than we are, so I'm not afraid when you will be asking us. I will try to be like 6-7 minutes, and what are you looking now is the start of smart cities and the first technologies. This is a 5,200 years old, currently the only or the oldest wooden wheel with an axle in the world, and you can see it in Ljubljana, in our Slovenian capital. Why this is the first technology? Well, if you go around today, what we have, the first or the major problem is traffic, right? And how it goes? It goes by the wheels. So I think that this is the first issue that we should solve, but it is ancient history. So, sorry. So I can answer right now that yes, we don't have all the answers about smart cities. So what is smart city anyway? There are so many definitions as you have or got questions about it. What are the city limits? Or if you would like to ask how many population you have, I don't know, through day, transmitters come in, I don't know, like 50% of population is higher through the day than through the night and so on. So there are many different things that when we are asking about the cities, and actually I don't have any really helpful answer about this. So I can give you some insights and some ideas that may be helpful, especially for the implementation, what you said, because I like strategies, really. So this is why we are a private institute, because things usually can move faster. And staying with the wheel, we believe that also we know that wheel makes the world go, the wheel makes the world go round. So, and very simple idea or how to answer the question, are we fine today with smartness of our cities? What will happen tomorrow and so on is, well, this wheel will turn around in this direction faster or slower, it depends. And what IoT offers in this respect is that you can get real-time data. These data are more or less human independent, so you can rely quite okay and well on this data. And you can move faster, make better decisions. And hopefully, you're going the right directions. So planning for today, for tomorrow is okay, but I haven't seen any plan that will that would survive the reality. And maybe this is interesting. I have heard smart grids and so on. You can play with this tool. This tool is known as Trends by Google. You just simply put in some words and you see what is going on in terms of media, news, and so on. So what is going on around the world about different topics, different names, and so on. And it is interesting to see that smart cities is growing, smart grid is going down, the interest, the media, the press, and so on, in the news, and the Internet of Things, which used to be very low, is going even higher. All we know, you can see all different graphs, how the population in cities is growing, but just for to understand how fast this growth is going, 34% of population worldwide lived in cities or in urban areas in 1960, and by 2050 it would be like 70%. It is up to us to help our children to live in a better world, of course. And the cities we know today may not be the cities we will have in the future. We have heard yesterday lots of standardization things, and one idea we had and what we are now following in Slovenia is that not only Slovenia but also Europe, this is ISO standard called 37120, which was issued last year. And actually this is not smart city standard, it is sustainable communities. So it refers also to towns, tier 2, tier 3, villages, and so on. You can see, I think, almost 20 areas which are quite well defined. There are key indicators defined and so on, so you can do the benchmarking. And these standards may be the one which can be also used by IoT and other technical standardization to be somehow more aligned. I put those three especially in place: education, health, and recreation. Why? I will give you one case later. So if you think that Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, like 270,000 of population through night and 110,000 in addition through day, is a perfect place. Yes, it's okay to live there. Yes, I'm glad to be there. But I also like to travel a lot, and I've been here in India many times. I like how this improvement is going on for the past 2 years only. So it is not so bad. But we have challenges exactly or very the same you have here, like traffic and water. And one interesting thing, going beyond the infrastructure, beyond energy, beyond traffic, is that one company approached us. This is a huge company which dealing with aluminium, you know, different things out of aluminium, and also they are providing urban architecture, urban equipment like benches and so on. And they approached us and said, we would like to have an Internet of Things. I said, okay. And they, this is a prototype of such a bench. This is not only bench. There are also some, let's say, thematic parks they are talking about. And I said, okay, thematic parks, you have Wi-Fi, you have charger, you have photovoltaics and so on. And I said, yes, but this is not it. This is about services. Okay, for the citizens, okay. And it makes sense. Why? They are now trying to build different thematic parks in different regions. They already received some requirements. So to improve and innovate the things, how the people meet and what they are doing. So people, or kids even, they can go outside and play games online or their tablets using these sensors which were built in this equipment, program it and run around, and they are not anymore sitting behind the PCs and tablets and sitting in-house and so on. Also older people, elderly can join here, can meet, can talk and so on. So despite all the standards we got and we try to plan and so on, eventually it is only about the people and the quality of their living. So if they perceive the quality of living, they believe that they are happy, healthy and so on, I think that's more important than statistics. Thank you very much.
I love the concluding line. It's always all about the people and their quality of life. Otherwise, it's for nothing. You can solve problems to the very end, means nothing much. We have very good discussions up until now. One-way traffic though, from here to there, it's not good. We are coming to the other way, but before that, we'll listen to the smartest among us. She is Sahiba Chopra, Deputy Marketing Manager of Machine Plus. We had listened to her colleague Sachin Pukhale yesterday from Machine Plus. It's a perfect example of how we can have smart solutions, not waiting for the implementation of a specific plan by the governmental authorities. They did not wait for something to come downstream. They went and made some things happen. And we would like to listen to Sahibaji's view on how this concept can be taken forward even further. And because your previous colleagues, 3 of them, they have all kept their word to keep their addresses within the 10 to 12 minute limit. You have 15 if you want to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I actually will take way less than 10 minutes. So it's great to hear what everyone has to say, but I hope you'll all recognize that what everyone is really concerned with is the same thing, whether we have the right infrastructure up there. We need the government support. The government is doing wonderful things with the Digital India Plan, which is 100 smart cities and the $1.2 billion investment. And it's good to see that the government is deploying e-health and trying to really make that work across the country. But as Ambassador Luby said, looking into the future is really important. What will really work within India? India is a large country which is full of exceptions. What will work maybe in one city or in one state won't actually work in others. What I think also is really important to understand is that everyone is within the technology field, but it's also important to look at other disciplines and try to see what has worked within other disciplines and other parts of what people are implementing across the country and try to implement it here too. So I come from an economics background, and what has really worked within economics is splitting things up into micro and macro. So if we look at smart grid, smart city implementation in the same way, we try to think of it as a holistic level, country level, across country-wide effort where the government and private sectors are working together to ensure that there's a strong canvas and a strong infrastructure for smaller companies like Machine Pulse to actually create solutions that will then help the individuals. That would work really well. What Machine Pulse is doing is that we are focusing on making renewable energy smarter and making buildings smarter and focusing on more of the micro level things. But what's important is that when we do make renewable energy smarter, is the grid smart enough? So is the grid smart enough for the electricity actually to travel, for net metering, for everything else that needs to make it work on a holistic level? Also, I think that it's really important that we focus on the individuals. So as was said earlier, it's really important that individuals think that the smart city is actually working for them. So as was mentioned yesterday, that 30% of our population is in cities and 70% is in rural areas. Now, if we think about whether we really want India to become a smart country and for the smart cities to be implemented throughout the country, we have to instill this knowledge of what it can give individuals. So even before we start thinking about whether people can trust the government with the data that they're generating from their homes or from anything else, we have to think about whether people even understand what the value of allowing a company to allow them to generate that data is. So if farmers can understand what the value of installing softwares that will allow them to improve their yields is, then they'll be able to allow governments to use that data to then develop models that will allow us to reach to the smart country potential, which we're already looking for. Yeah, so Machine Pulse is trying to work on this, and I know a lot of different startups are working on it in their own way. We're just trying to get India to the level where we think it can reach, and it's really important to have the government support, but at the same time, the government does have its limitations. And we need to be able to find, within the limitations, our own freedom and recognize that we do have the resources, and individual companies do have the capital to be able to work towards actually creating solutions that will make an impact not only on an individual level, but also on a country level. And thank you.
Thank you. You see, if you give people freedom, they use it very judiciously. That's the power of not over-regulating. You know, you just keep enough regulation, don't threaten them, trust people's judgment, and there you go. You know, just the other day I was, reading a blog article that says in India we have 850 phone models that are introduced every year. Somebody must be buying them. Now, 850 models. The government didn't tell us, didn't tell the manufacturer that you have to come up with 850. The marketplace decided, and that made the manufacturers innovative, number one. And why innovation? Greed enough is an innovation driver, that if they're greedy, they come up with better models. And I believe that smarter city will become reality when we, the Aam Aadmi, demand a smart city. It's not because government tells us that thou shall have 100 smart cities. Why not 101? Why not 102? We are 1.2 billion people. There would be roadblocks, my friends. If there are no roadblocks, we'll all lose our employments. Because there are roadblocks, somebody asked us to try to solve them. I love roadblocks. Now, the time for upstream. Questions need to come. It's a ping then it's had to be a pong from the other side. Please tell your affiliation. Make it a question. If you want to make a comment for a 5-minute speech, please hold on to that. Please don't always make a comment. But if it's a comment, then say at the very beginning that it's not a question but a comment. And please say which person in the dais, maybe all of them, your question is directed towards. The floor is open, my friends. Narangji.
My question is to Mr. Pandey. You represent FTTH Council, okay, and I had an unfortunate distinction of being the first person to design the FTTH on GPON network way back in 2007-8 in a smart building, trying to convert a building into smart building using Ericsson's.
What haven't you done in your life, Kishorji?
Huh?
What haven't you done?
No, I've not done a lot of things.
Man, you impress me.
No, I tried. I'm a free bird, I can do anything. I don't work for anybody. So I can do a lot of things. Okay, I'm not told by anybody except by the clients. Now, my point was, in 2007 and 8, I think you must be knowing Radius. I did that project for them, designed the whole architecture. 6-8 years beyond, where are we there in that? Unless we have smart buildings, we cannot create a smart city, you know. So how do you look at it in the real estate segment, even in the premium segment? How many buildings today we have actually fiber enabled? We talk about the backbone. Yeah. Okay, but DDA flats and colonies will come very, very late. Are the condominiums fiber enabled today?
No, absolutely right. So actually we are still at 2007-8 level. I can tell you we haven't moved anything worth mentioning. You know, so we may have a stray Hiranandani new complex where they put some fiber. JP around that new highway, there's something that they are talking about doing fiber, but you know, doesn't do that himself. And somebody goes and puts fiber, and his money is coming much later. When you start using these services, that business model doesn't work. Which is why I mentioned the example of some governments in some countries, which is very important. And you know, like all of us have been talking, and Dr. Chatterjee also mentioned, is that the lesser we burden the government, the better it is. You know, an idea would survive only if it makes money. It gets everybody. Stakeholders have to be a lot. Government cannot be the single stakeholder. So the private sector actually come in and start putting fiber to everybody's house for this smart city concept to happen. If you want to connect your equipment in your house, you know, machine-to-machine communication, if you don't have fiber, then there is no broadband, there is no connectivity. It's a failure. Hence, so one of the things that I suggested was, which some countries have done, is that the Ministry of Urban Affairs or Development, Rural Development, makes it mandatory that a builder has to put fiber in a house like he puts water and electricity before getting a completion certificate. You have to make this ubiquitous fiber available everywhere. He puts, and I'm sure many years ago there was no telephone wire which was put. Unless you got a telephone connection, nobody would come and put a telephone wire. Now you have to make it mandatory, and this doesn't cost anything. When you're selling homes for several millions of rupees, to put 2 fibers doesn't cost anything, but it creates an ecosystem for what you said to grow and smart cities to actually happen.
Okay. Any other reason you find that was the reason why we are not proliferating?
Absolutely.
Any other reason that you can point out?
No, like, there is no immediate return. This is a long-term game.
That was a mistake in the business model changing, right, from which we started initially. Right. The basic premise was, you have a number of basic services running in a building. Just calculate per condominium or per HU unit cost, which anyway builder is spending. Right. And we had asked for that. Okay, you give us this 60,000-70,000 rupees. For this, we'll deploy this thing. But then over-ambition took this thing that no, we'll recover in services model. That's where another major problem was that we built a 100 Mbps pipe in that ATS Paradiso way back then. Right. But there were no smarts or those super cars to run on. Smart homes, all these things are interconnected. We need to smart homes.
Everything is interconnected. Yes, absolutely.
So just fiber alone will not really enable smart cities. We need to have a whole ecosystem of smart nodes, products. That's what I think IoT, that's where it comes in, the M2M comes in.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, interconnected, yes. The lesser the technology is apparent, it's better. The lesser the government is apparent, is better. You have to be just transparent. People just take it for granted. Then it really becomes a way of life. Next question, please.
Hello.
Please announce who you are. We all know who you are.
Sir, I'm Dr. Ruma Shukla. I'm the business head of m2m Technologies Limited. Sir, my question, I don't know who in the panel will answer it. Maybe Professor Jaganshah can answer it. Sir, it is regarding when we are building a smart city. There are two things which need to be taken care of. One is the economics of that city. Are we taking care of that? We are talking about smart technology, IoT, it's okay. But after all, it is the economics which is pulling the people from the rural area also, and which is the heart of the city. So how are we taking care of the economics of the city? Because it deals with, in most of our cities, 50% of the GDP contribution of that city is from informal sector. It's a hard fact, but it is. Then second thing is, there is a character of a city, especially in Indian city. Allahabad, Varanasi is different, a new Raipur is different, and a Delhi is different. So while building these smart cities, are we taking care of the particular character of the city? Because we cannot kill that. Varanasi is a religious city, it has to be a religious city, which entire economics is based on that.
Of course, yesterday, if I remember, I mean, I forget things very easily. We heard that in Slovenia there are 2 million people. Is that a correct number?
Yes.
Every mahalla in Delhi has 2 million people. So I'm not surprised that Varanasi is different from Allahabad, which is different from Delhi.
Yeah.
So your question is very to the point. Now, who in the panel will take that one? Thomas. Yes.
Thank you. I think this is a great question, and it refers on one side on the segments listed by the ISO. You saw finance or economic as something that really matters when you are building smart cities. As well, when you read the 100 smart cities in India, somehow it is obvious that these investments will not happen like, okay, people will come and you need to be smart or something like that, but it will definitely have kind of business plan. And what I liked, I read some books of India, and one was saying that it used to be in India that everything was in Kolkata or then later in Delhi. What started there, it was in India. And now, I think after 1960s, 70s, now in 80s even more, and especially today, everything is moving like a competition between the states, which is what also you said in the beginning. So let people, let states do their own homework and to find what are they about. This is also something that is going other places. In the States, why they are so successful? Because if you would like to go high-tech, you go to Silicon Valley. Okay, today, new high-tech generation you have also on the East Coast as well, or in Texas, where you would say, okay, money and oil. But today in Texas, you can find really innovative companies and so on. So this is going also on in Europe, in India, which are very familiar places. In Europe, you have 28 countries. You have here 28, 29 states. So these are not homogeneous systems. So they are trying to integrate and compete. And this competition, I think, is the way that will drive the smartness, not only of cities, but the states and villages as well. And you will find, you have your own character, each city, each state. It is built in heritage and so on. As I mentioned, it is about people. And if you go to Africa or any other place, these people, if they are engaged, you will have a great city. If they are not engaged, if this is top-down something, God bless you with what we'll get. So I think this might be something that can help you.
It's very important. economy, the economics of making cities smarter, it should be the business plan of the government. You know, they don't call it the business plan of the government, but that's what it is basically. Sahiba, do you have any comments to make on this one? You are smiling, so I think that something is bothering you.
Yeah, so I think that it's easy to be able to ask the states to then understand what how their infrastructure works or how the people think, and try to make it grow that way. But I think that a lot of times we need one general body also that spreads the word, because like I said earlier, India is a country full of exceptions. So I don't even, at this point, we haven't done enough research to really understand whether different states within the country even understand the value of being able to tell their citizens to install or enforce the installation of carbon fiber within their houses, or to be able to install different smart meters, etc. So I think definitely the state is responsible for it. We can't do it from a national level. So I think advertising or doing something through the media would help. And I think that's definitely the best way to go around it, and also try and imply some socioeconomic principles within it. So to understand behavioral economics and to understand how people think, and then to try and promote that knowledge through understanding how to make people actually believe in it would work best.
Great. Pushpal, you are very silent on this. How would GeoSolution think about this thing?
I think so, sir. It is not the GeoSolutions, but I think so definitely if we are focusing towards smartness, as per I have also, my main points were towards that direction only. Definitely the people of any particular city, they have to get involved in it. Until unless the local people wouldn't be involving, so definitely we are not going to achieve in that particular direction. So government, and up to a certain extent, definitely this question is directly to the concerned state government as well as the national government right now. That how they are taking the step to make it the reality. But definitely we have to save our heritage also, our cultural values also we have to definitely save.
Yeah, you have to demand smartness. Professor Jagan.
I'm going to try and answer that question. I think it's very important for us to recognize that there is actually a paradigm shift in the way in which we are thinking. And in fact, what Mr. Daya pointed out, or rather the question that you asked, are we really actually living in cities, is a very interesting and apt question, because we must understand that the smartest, well, one of the smartest people in the country is sitting right on top of this government. And what has been conceived is not an urban development program, even though smart cities is being sort of talked about by the Ministry of Urban Development. It's enabling conditions to create smarter living conditions for all Indians.
Exactly.
Enabling conditions. Digital India is more profoundly linked to smart cities than any policy as yet that is likely to come out from the Ministry of Urban Development. Cleaning through Swachh Abhiyan, cleaning up our cities is far more important than for us to start talking about Shanghai or London and Tokyo and so on and so forth. So this is the paradigm shift, and we've got to understand that this is not about mass human engineering. This is about creating enabling conditions so that those livelihoods that you asked about can actually become a ubiquitous system, right? So Skill India is as important to the urbanization scenario of India as any of the other programs. And livelihoods and economic thinking is very fundamental to the conception of smart cities. I'll give you a very simple illustration. When and of course there have been numerous such presentations before the Prime Minister of policies on smart cities. At one meeting he just said, look, can we just achieve two simple indicators? Can we create more jobs? And can we reduce poverty in our cities? Most important. Because of course, we come up with 25 indicators. This is what a smart city is going to be. Can a smart city in India actually provide livelihoods to people, and can it reduce the number of poor people living in the cities? If we can achieve that in the next decade, that will be an enormous transformative achievement.
I think I totally agree with you. I think what the smart cities will do, is going to take all of us higher in the value chain of jobs. I was, right after our Prime Minister said we need to have a clean India, that Swachh Bharat, I was talking to a friend of mine. He said, yeah, we have that Swachh Bharat paradigm for a long time. The idea is, I make it dirty, somebody else picks it up. That needs to change. As you said, as you pointed out, it has to be in us that we need to demand for ourselves, not depend on somebody else. So, next question. And I'll come to you, sir. Could you please announce who you are, please?
Good morning, sir. I am Shreyas Vidwans, and I am from Symbiosis Institute of Telecom Management, Pune.
Okay.
So my question is that, as you're talking about smart cities, there's one more vertical which is disaster management, which we need to talk about when we talk about, like getting our city smart. So is any work happening on that front, the disaster management part? Because I believe that the individual states are working on their respective disaster management programs. So is it something like we should have some sync together, like, work on the disaster management, like when we talk about smart cities?
Yeah, it definitely has a footprint on smart cities. Let me put I've been resisting for too long, but you just fell right onto my territory. I represent a standards organization. We are going to start very soon a program on critical communications, disaster management. It has all kinds of implications, and that will be a horizontal, it's not a vertical thing. Disaster management does not come in just one way. It could be an earthquake, it could be like a Kashmir flood. And everything is different, just as cleaning up Ganga will be different from cleaning up a different river or a different, pond somewhere else. So please come and join. If that's somewhere you can contribute, if you have some passion, come and join TSDS. I would love your expertise. Now, this was not towards me, it was towards the panel. I'd like anyone in the panel to take you on up for the critical communications for disaster management, what the smart cities might fall into.
I think so. Whenever we are talking about, everything is very much interrelated. When we are talking about sustainability, when we are talking about disaster management programs, when we are talking about any city development plan or anything else, everything is very much correlated. Because everything is related to the particular city only. When we are talking about a city, disaster management must be taken care of. It must come with the policy. So, we cannot see apart, because a disaster is a disaster. It can happen anywhere. So before that, we have to definitely be prepared, and definitely something very concrete must be associated in this perspective also from the government side, that how we are going to take it parallelly. Please.
Okay, supplemental?
Yeah, it's a supplementary comment. We already have a Mumbai disaster management plan which is appreciated world over. It's a very good plan, which they have plan for the entire control center for whatever disasters are coming up anytime in Mumbai that can be controlled, and it has been made prominent after the renowned flood of Mumbai, and after that I think much of the flood has been already controlled because of that plan.
Okay, we have got just time for one more question. Right here, sir.
I'd like to divert
Can you just announce who you are, sir?
Yes, sir, Prabhu, and next speaker. I'd like to seek the views of panelists on the smart village one, because cities are already smart in a way compared to villages. And in the West, I've seen that villages and cities are not really different from each other. infrastructure level, smartness is more or less same. So, what are your views on the smart village? How does it look like? What should be?
Boy, that's the theme of our next conference. Okay, quick in answers from the panel, and then we'll bring.
Quickly, just to comment, I think this is for India very, very important. Like you said, cities are still, they have some level of smartness, and I think this digital India or the internet, which is actually meant to divide the social gap between villages and cities in India, the one way to go about dividing that gap is internet or smart villages, to bring education on the level of what a person in cities can get to be available in villages, and health and marketing their products, not having to come to village, come to middlemen, etc. I think the starting from the villages is the perfect thing for India to bring the whole growth up, and also to just one in the same context question about economies that you talked about. It's well known nowadays that 10% increase in internet penetration increases the GDP by 1%. So you have employment, business, education, everything will improve. So economy will definitely help and grow with this smart city thing.
One more thing that I think would make villages smart is that a lot of them still lack access to electricity. So I think just by fulfilling that basic right, it makes them a lot smarter. I'm sure all of you know about the village in Bihar, Dharnai, that is now completely solar powered due to a microgrid that's been installed by Greenpeace. So I think that if we promote renewable energy installations, the cities will then have access to electricity, which will in turn allow them to become a lot smarter. So I think just fulfilling basic human rights is the first step that we need to make India and just cities within India smart.
Sir, another point I would like to, because the question is very much related to Sir you. Sir, whenever we are talking about the overall development of our country, we cannot ignore our villages. Definitely, the road to the, if we want to be developed, the road definitely trespasses through the villages only. Because in today's scenario, our cities cannot afford the revert of the population. Because right now, I'm from Haryana state. In my state, 80% people are still staying in the villages only. So none of our city can take the workload of these villages. So definitely we have to think upon in that direction where we can make our villages smart villages, and the resource potentiality of the cities itself doesn't allow us. So my perspective is definitely toward that.
Thomas.
Yeah, maybe just a brief pragmatic thing. You mentioned that in the more developed countries or in Europe, villages are different, but what I can say is actually in Slovenia people are moving from cities to villages. So I don't think that we will get 70% of population in the cities. Well, maybe it is for some other reasons, but actually what is going on is that we also have a special competence center on rural broadband, which is called public-private partnership for rural broadband. It means that all the so the zones where there is no economic interest by telcos to invest in the infrastructure, we in Europe are trying now to find a way how to bring this infrastructure, either fiber or it could be wireless links. We have some companies using 350 megabits links and so on, which is another technology, but same quality of service. So this is going on, and yes, in Europe are many spots and places which are not covered in terms of good internet. I'm lucky guy, I have 3 providers, 3 different 100 megabits, but I live in Ljubljana, okay? So I can pick any of these.
Thank you. Great perspectives. And
just to compliment, I mean, it's not a question, just to compliment, and he has been involved in that various programs, but with fiber connecting 250 village panchayats, which means connecting 650,000 villages, if we achieve that, which is going on right now, and with e-governance program, with common service center, and developing applications in the vernacular languages, which DIT has taken up, And now with this Adarsh Gram Yojana, which means minister will adopt a village and modernize that village, I think mix of all these things will slowly bring, as Dr. Shah pointed out, we are at a paradigm shift, but various initiatives, probably once those goes in place, villages will become smarter, and then there will be competitions, then I think we will move into that direction. So Adarsh Gram Yojana was another complement initiative of Prime Minister's office, which will help in e-governance, vernacular language applications, and village local entrepreneurs. I mean, we have to strengthen through the skill development program as well.
Yeah, it could have been the other way around. If the Prime Minister would have announced that we will make 10,000 smart villages, then cities would be automatically smarter. You know, so with that, I really really thank our four panelists. Smartest of all, obviously, Sahibaji. And thank you all for listening.